Hey there everybody, how goes it? It's been a while since I've done a video kind of up here on campus, and my videos and their content have been pretty scattered, both in the time in between my uploads and within what's being said in the videos themselves. Just because, I wanted to kind of like throw paint at the canvas and see what happened. Well, I went and did something for the first time the other day. I went and attempted to read poetry on the doorsteps of just random people's homes to see what would happen. Had no takers. I think it was quite the surprise to a lot of people. I don't think that anyone had ever been confronted by that experience before, which is something I love, right? It's obviously not like an action which is going to be detrimental towards the social norms of society, but it's definitely something that no one has ever come across or experienced, right? And so I was kind of like on that forefront, so to speak, with it. But I have a few things that I've written, and then I'd like to talk about a couple other things. Where to start, you know what I mean? That's what it's all about, where to start. The Lone Peak. So here's a little bit of a pretext. I'm in an area where everybody is quite religious in their worship and what they worship and what should be worshipped. And for me, it gives me a lot of time on the days of worship to find things that I myself would worship, right? But since no one wants to share in my worship, I find myself in places where no one else is. So this is called the Lone Peak. This mossy rock that I'd wish to share, but being alone is what drove me here, where this place has features consistent with loneliness. The moss, to start, being firm and not worn or loosed by man, which gives it a slippery face and shaken nerves in coming upon its edge. Wherewithin do I lie to be firm upon this spot of solitude, having none to console with regarding the fall before me? What gives such view in its rapid descent? I ponder as to what else lies before me that holds me from the fall, my picture of what is to come for me beyond this place upon my departure of it, wherewithin to be upon its point, in recognition of the scene before me, having passed to identify what is to come. This hopeless skill, wherewithin it is worked into being by those who find it, a double-edged crimp that brings one down safely and gives rise to the ground in opposition to the climb. Sowing sows so that each has reason for the other until they come together. Who then makes hope? As is hope needed if there is no way to fail? Then is not hope a test made by hope, so hope can be? Is then the opposition to hope hopelessness, hope actually? In that in defeating hope, one defeats the need for the test for hope to be, where no one can fail, but then can anyone see without the height to fall? So that's what I felt as I was kind of upon this precipice by myself, seeing the fall before me and really reasoning as to what gives somebody the ability to be in such a place, right, where they're on the edge. And that's how I would describe it. Now, this kind of goes along with that, and I actually wrote this before that, but I think that actually saying it after what I just said makes it more fitting, because how does one motivate oneself to go alone? And so I called this Singing in the Shower. Singing owns monopoly, not only in the shower, but in most forms of activities involved in there being little to no one around. Why, I ask, and say in a tone akin to a dry educational book. What more does singing alone offer than one vocalizing terms with no one around? Is this a reinforced behavior of embarrassment, where if one in close proximity to another who thought themselves alone was to be discovered, it would be much more appropriate to be caught singing rather than conferring to no one? What does singing alone bring to the singer? A state of being zoned out, then during this dry space until contact with another is then had, where then, like keeping rhythm in a march, you then have contact, and due to the song, it is easy for the person you are coming into contact with to jump in from there, given the song's known ability and the ease of recognizing a beat, rather than long strewn-out conversations with no one but yourself, where then when coming in contact leads the person you are coming in contact with toward a state of confusion, for they know no context. Where within forming words toward a continued conversation with yourself while on the move without losing your way can be as difficult as simply moving itself. Where then rather than continue a conversation that takes your mind somewhere, you go in circles in the conversation so that it becomes easy through repetition, and you are no longer in thought and hold the rhythm to move outside your mind. Is this then all a song is? Words cut short so they no longer cut a new trail, and we can run around this place until it becomes concrete beneath our feet, where then things become rhythm and harmony after they have been said enough for nostalgia to take hold of our beings in the path's parts? Knowing then this, what is a song even? And if I was to be speaking and moving, thinking myself alone, where the words said put me in a state of being able to accomplish the task until many speakers were again present, asking and speaking without asking, who would I find walking this way, where the way itself today looks down upon being so, as if singing holds monopoly in the shower? What does my consciousness tell me about such things? It tells me that if I was to usher forth a constant flow of words that continually held difference, that I would be seen as such a difference, that the time I would then have to say such things with no one around would become highly elevated, even if the shape of this pattern in its fullness would put all other songs to shame in the vocality of points expressed through the vibration of my being. Where within, who's stopping someone from shooting the basketball from their own side of the court, or from jumping from end zone to end zone with the ball in their hands? Is it the game itself? For wouldn't it be over if I did? So that's kind of like me making motivation out of, traveling the expanse and the broadness of space where there's no stimulation but silence. And I think for a lot of people, silence can be the most frightening thing, right? And at times it can be the most comforting thing, because if you are then truly silent, you allow everything else to move, and you can truly watch and observe everything move around you and actually know it better for it. So then going back, I've been doing a lot of different types of media play here. I figured out that my iPod actually allows me to take voice memos, and so I've been walking around to a lot of different places that a lot of this other media is heavy, and there's a lot of equipment set up involved, and I have to find proper locations to be able to capture the essence of what I'm saying. But with this little device, I've just kind of wandered around, climbed up things, and gone to other places where I've still been able to record something. And I've been uploading what I would consider just sheer cliffs of these most immaculate falls, right, where one false foot you're gonna go falling for a long time, possibly forever. So that being said, why even travel? Why go from place to place to place? And I had this thought, I called it tourist trade. The nuance to motion for those who love the tour, left by the ones who no longer called the tour theirs, trading time away with their own circumnavigation, being accented into a character pond whose structure, and we'll wait for the noise to pass. I'm quite used to this actually. Growing up in a war zone pretty much, constantly having machines of war in your backyard, you really become familiar with loud noises being interruptive and abrupt in their introduction to your presence. And it looks like it's here to stay. So I'm just gonna finish off here. Being accented into a character font whose structure attracts the Tor, feeding off of tourist trade. The time for superstition. Now, I kind of led away from the tourist portion of this into a superstitious portion because I think that that's what we seek when we travel, is almost a sense of superstition. I want to be superstitious so it all has meaning, each motion imbued with power, calling on the wind to take air to where motion is beyond meaning, beyond superstition. Is there such a place where what is done is because of the meaning of the place in every place? No place is beyond superstition. Superstition simply becomes the game well played, from the movement beforehand toward mentality, and the movement within toward performance, and the movement post towards tomorrow. If all is superstition, then where is superstition? Where we haven't quite gone? Has superstition gone ahead of us so that when we reach this place we feel superstition, and when we finally know where we are no longer superstitious, relying upon what we think makes it work until we know how it works beyond a reasonable doubt? Where when cataclysm wrecks again our understanding as we feed superstition so we can once again become lost. I think a lot of people search to find lost. And here's kind of my last little piece that I've done in the last little while. Light from long ago, ages gone and past. When we look out, it's said that the lights we see are far away, far from here. Future and what was. If we see these lights of an age, are we then seeing where we have been, which could be again, if brought back into alignment to shine on all those who align with us? The stories told, the stories once were. Yet what is a figure to another figure? When the figure goes beyond it being schooled, what stories are told of who, where? What, if anything, is beyond multi-representationality? Is it what goes between the communion of everything? Does this thing judge? If so, does this thing in its judgment then appear as a complex character, interacting with different personalities differently based upon its judgment, then being represented in a multiplicity of understandings for the various personalities? And that one's having to deal with this like in-between space between the communion of all things, right? And does such a thing even really exist, which translates all actions from one to another in the form of understanding? And is this thing itself separate and apart from it actually falling into an aspect of this equation where it itself is something else, right? You know, it's been quite the trip doing this whole YouTube channel and being up here, going to school. I feel like I really found that lost place, right? Where I just had to pretty much learn my surroundings all over again. It's been a wild ride and I've come to a lot of fantastic places. I'm thinking of moving to California here in the next little bit with a good friend that I've pretty much known my whole life. So we'll see where that takes me and if I actually am able to make it there or not. You know, I would love to continue to do this stuff. It's just, as has been seen by anybody who watches my stuff, as I've gotten more involved with the school and the demands of the school, right? A lot of this stuff has taken a back seat, but I've done my best to interweave the two things into kind of one culmination of expression, of passion, right? Where I can apply things in a lot of different areas and they still tackle the problems and questions that I'm being asked and possibly open up new areas of exploration for people to enjoy. You know, it's just, I'm really working on bettering myself, but I think that there comes a time, right, when the betterment of yourself requires you to do less rather than to do more. So I'm hovering between that and that. But anyways, everybody, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.